Hi, it's Adele here, and today we're going to talk about celery and specifically celery juice. So celery has been touted with a huge amount of health benefits and it really is amazing. But if you're like me and I do not eat celery raw, or I don't even enjoy pure celery juice at all, I want to show you a delicious sweet celery juice recipe today. So you can start enjoying those amazing benefits of celery, but also in an amazingly good tasting juice. So let's get started. What you'll need are 2 apples. So obviously smaller apples will make a little bit of less juice, bigger apples more juice, and a handful of grapes, 2 celery stalks. Right, here's your celery pot. And then half a lemon. So depending on the size of your lemon, if you have one of these big lemons, you might want to make it a quarter. Lemon is really what gives a juice a kick. But this is what you will need in order to make your amazing sweet celery juice. Now before we hit the juicer, please always make sure that your produce is washed. And then the celery specifically, I generally don't use the bottom root part, but you can juice celery leaves. What I do recommend, however, is before you juice your celery, please ensure that you've washed it, and specifically with a brush, just go through all the grooves, because sometimes there's dirt that's stuck inside the grooves of celery, and that's definitely not something that you want in your juice. So I'm going to quickly go wash my celery and then I'll be back. Okay, so my celery's been washed. Okay, let's get going. Just want to get a bigger knife. And I've got a Kuvings Evo 820 whole slow juicer. And I'm going to start with the apples. Now this is to make 1 juice. So obviously if you're going to double up, just double up the ingredients as well. But we're going to start off with our apples. Remember with apples, just remove the wooden stalk. This is not what we want in our juice. And then we're going to start feeding it through the juicer. And I forgot to mention about a handful of grapes, but also the grapes, not the stalks. So we're going to have to pick off the grapes as we put it through the juicer. Oh, there goes a grape. Right. And you can also eat your grapes before you're juicing it. Nothing wrong with that. Right. So apples. I always cut the apple just for 2 reasons. So that it fits through the feeding chute firstly. And then secondly, also just to check that the insides of the apple are pretty. I don't want to feed a rotten apple through a juicer. That's not going to taste well. Right, we'll open that up so that the juice can go through. You can also keep it closed if you just want to make sure that your juice blends beautifully within the juicer. Right, so typically I will use my celery until last. Just very quickly, the lemon. So if you use organic lemons, you're welcome to keep the outer peel on. If you use store-bought lemons, just make sure that you take as much of the yellow part off. They are often covered with wax. But keep as much, let me just show you, keep as much of the pith on as what you possibly can. Right, like such. Right, we'll put that through the juicer. Then a handful of grapes. So we'll just feed that in. Also make sure you wash your grapes. So I typically use an organic fruit and vegetable wash to clean my produce before I juice it. There's 2 more. Right. And then the celery. Right. So the celery, if you're using a slow juicer, a vertical one like this Kuvings one, celery is quite stringy, so it can block up your juicer. So I will definitely recommend that we cut it into about 2 centimeter pieces and then just feed that through the juicer. There's our celery bit. It seems a little tedious, but I mean it's a lot less hassle than when it's blocking up your juicer. So now we just feed our celery in. I typically use or leave celery for last. You see there's our juice beautifully filling up in the bowl. Right. So 2 big celery stalks. You can always use less fruit, so use only 1 apple instead of 2 if you're worried about too much fruit. And you can always increase your celery as well. And you'll see the juice has started to change into a beautiful green color. Oh, just look at that. Right. And then we're just going to get our glass. There's our glass. And our delicious sweet celery juice. Now, doesn't that look absolutely gorgeous? To your health. You can definitely taste the celery, but it's also beautifully balanced out with the lemon and the apple and the grapes. So this is just an amazing juice and such a great way to get celery juice in as part, or celery in as part of your diet. Enjoy.